5 Sinister Skinwalker Encounters Revealed, terrifying tales that haunt the forbidden woods. The sunlight barely filters through the tall pines of the woods, casting long shadows that seem to shift and dance, whipping the air with a chill. They say that somewhere in Willow Springs, disturbing shapes lurk just beyond the treeline, a chilling reminder of the old legends. It's not just folklore, it's a dark specter that haunts this small, quiet neighborhood, and for Sarah, a suburban mother, the whispered tales ignite a primal fear. The loss of her family's financial security grips her heart tighter than the hushed fears of unseen watchers. With her 2 children, Ethan and Lily, in tow, Sarah has little time for ghost stories. As they prepare for their long-awaited camping trip, she brushes off her neighbors' murmurs about skinwalkers as mere frightful tales meant for children. They need to stop scaring the kids, she mutters, but that derisive laughter does little to drown the worried voice nagging in the back of her mind. 2 weeks before their departure, odd occurrences begin to unravel the fabric of Sarah's suburban reality. Ethan wakes up night after night, soaked in sweat, tangled in fear. "Mom, there are things outside, things that watch," he cries, his eyes wide and quivering. Each morning she finds a strange shadow on their yard, something dark and unnatural that she can't quite make out. A raven perched on the fence seems to stare with knowing eyes, and the neighbors' cats begin to vanish, leaving only their echoing meows behind. With hesitant excitement, Sarah leads her kids into the woods. As they venture deeper, the vibrant sounds of nature fade. The rustling leaves become ominous whispers, sending a shiver down her spine. Deer freeze mid-step, glaring at them with unnerving intensity, while mocking, sharp calls of birds echo eerily. Despite Sarah's growing unease, she pushes it down, determined to make this a memorable family outing, but things go wrong. A gust of wind spirals past them, a tent peg is missing. Markings mar the trees, bizarre spirals that shouldn't be there. Shadows flicker just beyond their sight, twisting and writhing in grotesque fashion. "Did you see that?" Ethan gasps, pointing, his little heart racing. It was right there. Panic twists in Sarah's gut. She must comfort her children, but uncertainty looms large, scratching at her mind. That night, with silence descending like a heavy veil, Sarah tries to create a barrier against the growing dread. The flicker of the campfire barely holds back the consuming darkness, shadows stretching menacingly. Ethan's terrified recounting of creatures prowling near their tent gnaws at her sanity. "Listen, honey, it's just the dark playing tricks," she whispers, forcing bravado. But what if those childhood tales of skinwalkers are more than bedtime stories? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night settles heavier as the forest hums an unsettling tune. Suddenly, they hear footsteps, heavy, deliberate, yet as quiet as a whisper could be. Sarah grips her children close, the warmth of their small bodies grounding against the chills sweeping through the camp. She glances at the treeline. A familiar figure appears, silhouetted against the underworld dark, shifting unnaturally. Is it a trick of the firelight? Or something sinister closing in? Sarah's heart races, a primal beat echoing through her chest. She faces the truth, the legends woven into Willow Springs may not be mere stories after all. Shadows close in, thickening the air with dread, and she feels a growing terror wash over her. How much longer can she protect her family from the lurking darkness? What else remains hidden, waiting to pounce from the very facade she trusted? In this moment, as fear envelopes her, Sarah is left to ponder, are they really safe out here? Or has the true horror just begun? The air grew heavier, suffocating under the weight of unseen eyes, as the trembling shadows whispered around them. Sarah's instincts kicked in. If they were being watched, they had to be smart. Ethan, Lily, stay close to me," she whispered, pulling them into a tight huddle. They grasped her hands, their small fingers cold and trembling. Each heartbeat pulsed with a primal fear. They were not alone. The footsteps there they were again, trekking softly over the forest floor as if testing the limits of their vulnerability. She peered into the darkness, forcing her eyes to adjust, but what she saw sent chills racing down her spine. The silhouette stood just beyond the glow of their campfire, its form shifting, flickering with the play of light. One moment it appeared human, the next, something else entirely. "Mom," Lily whimpered, her voice a fragile thread, It's not real, right?" Sarah swallowed hard, her throat dry as dust. "It's just a trick of the light." But even as the words left her mouth, doubt coiled around her heart. The raven from their yard flapped its wings above them, cawing with a frantic urgency that seemed unnatural in the night. Suddenly, the campfire flickered, sputtering as if choking on the very air that surrounded it. The flames danced, casting monstrous shadows against the trees, their movement rhythmically morbid. Then a low growl emanated from the darkness, a deep, guttural sound that rolled through the night like distant thunder. Sarah's pulse quickened. Sweat trickled down her back. Desperation clawed at her resolve. "We need to go back to the car," she announced, though the fear tightening her chest seemed to mock her. The way back was dark and hollow, every rustle unsettling as the woods pressed closer, eager to reclaim them. "Mommy, please don't!" Ethan cried, his voice high-pitched with terror. "I don't want to be out here." "I know, baby. Just hold on to my hand." Her own voice barely reassured herself. They turned toward the path leading back, instinct guiding her steps as she strained to hear any movement. The growl returned, closer now, curling through the roots of her spine. They moved swiftly, a crushing silence wrapping around them like a shroud, broken only by the sound of their hurried breaths. Every rustle in the underbrush felt like a predator stalking them. Shadows danced with menace, as the true nature of the forest began to reveal itself. It was alive and hunting. Suddenly, a figure darted through the trees, fast and low. "Over there!" Ethan shouted, pointing. Sarah's heart stopped as she turned sharply. The figure was blurred, a grotesque parody of something that could have been human, its eyes reflecting the firelight like twin embers glowing with malice. "Run!" Sarah cried, adrenaline igniting her legs, propelling her and her children forward without a moment's thought. They stumbled over roots and rocks, their cries blending into the night as panic gripped the air. Every part of her screamed to keep moving, to escape this twisted nightmare. But the feeling of being pursued, the presence trailing just behind them, ingrained a new kind of fear deep in her bones. She dared not look back, knowing that whatever hunted them reveled in their fear, but as they raced, the rhythmic crunch of leaves faded away. The forest stilled, eerily quiet, breaking only for the sudden metallic snap of a branch. Their surroundings shifted, darkness thickened. "Where are we?" Lily wailed, confusion clawing at her small voice. "We're almost there." Lies slipped from Sarah's lips, chasing hope in the dense shadows around them, but she felt something wrapping its fingers around her heart, the chilling realization that they were lost. And then, a piercing holler shattered the silence, human yet feral. The shadows grew darker, and the weight of the woods pressed heavy. A voice that sounded almost like Ethan nudged at her from the depths, twisting her instincts. "Mom, it's behind us." Was it them? Or something else entirely? Sarah forced her eyes ahead, each step heavier than the last, but even as she pushed forward, the world around them seemed to pulse with an insidious energy. What would it take to escape the talons of something that thrived on fear? The darkness engulfed them, and as Sarah glanced back one last time, a grotesque grin stretched across the silhouette. Hope shattered like glass, leaving only vulnerability in its wake. With every step, she realized this was only the beginning of their harrowing descent into the heart of terror, and what awaited them next would change everything. What had she unleashed? Was there truly no way out? The forest closed in around them, the trees now towering towers of despair, their twisted branches reaching down like skeletal fingers eager to snatch them away. Sarah stumbled, a root catching her foot, causing her to sprawl forward, dragging her children down with her. "Get up! Get up!" she shouted, urgency pressing against her chest like a vice. Ethan's whimper echoed in the silence, and she scrambled to protect them, pulling them into an upright position. Their breaths came out in frantic bursts, the darkness swirling like a living thing, hunting, watching. "Mom, I can't. I don't want." Ethan choked on his words, his small voice cracking under the weight of terror. "Just hold on to me, Ethan," she urged, gripping his hand tighter, the chill of his sweaty palm reminding her of their fragile state. They resumed their flight, stumbling deeper into the heart of the woods, where even the moonlight seemed reluctant to shine. Shadows elongated and morphed, a perverse dance coaxing whispers from the trees. Each sound, the crackling leaves, the rustling branches, felt like the chorus of spirits urging them to surrender. "Is it still behind us?" Lily gasped, her voice fragile against the darkness, each syllable trembling with dread. "I don't know," Sarah replied, turning her head to scan the haunting expanse. The silence had become alive, thick and suffocating, whispering promises of despair. Was it following? Were those claws just behind them, eager to claw their flesh? A chilling howl echoed through the trees, slicing through the night. It was unlike anything she had ever heard, part animal, part something altogether more sinister. It twined around her gut, sending a fresh burst of adrenaline coursing through her. "Mommy!" Ethan's scream pulled her from the brink of panic. It's okay," she reassured, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Every instinct screamed at her to keep moving, yet her body began to betray her. They couldn't outrun what didn't tire. They stumbled to a small clearing, moonlight bathing the area in eerie brightness. She exhaled sharply, an illusion of safety, however brief. But as soon as they stopped, they became hyper-aware of the oppressive silence that surrounded them. "Look!" Lily pointed toward a cluster of tall grass shifting erratically as if something was moving within. "Stay here," Sarah whispered, heart pounding, as she approached the rustling. "Mom!" Ethan pleaded. Just let me check." With cautious steps, she neared the source, the fear surging within her pushing her onward. When she reached the grass, a storm of emotion coursed through her as she prepared to break through to whatever lay hidden. Then, from the opposite side, she felt something grand shift, a presence looming in the darkness beyond her vision. Her instincts screamed a primal warning clawing at her consciousness. "Sarah!" The familiar voice floated through the air, sending shivers racing down her back. An echo that resembled Ethan's, but tainted with something dark, something wrong. "Stay back!" she shouted, swinging around to shield her children. "It can't be you, Mom, it's me." The voice insisted, but there was an edge, a twist that made her insides clench. "I'm scared. Help me." It was impossible to tell now which Ethan was real, and fear surged through her veins like fire. "Get away from that!" she barked, grabbing both her children and instructing them to circle her. The glow of the moon seemed to waver, even the air around them felt charged, thick with malevolence. They heard it again, a growling snarl, sharp and vicious, breaking free from the confines of the darkness. It echoed through the trees, rising like a wave, drowning out all reason. In that moment of chaos, Sarah could not shake the feeling that something had moved closer, shifting in and out of the shadows, hungry. Then, the familiar voice sliced through the primal roar, sinking into her as if it were a knife. "Mom, help me." The words reverberated through her soul, as raw and desperate as it could possibly be. In an instant, she made her decision. "Run!" she ordered. Again, heart hammering against her ribs as she tugged the kids in the opposite direction. They plunged back into the darkness, aware that behind them, there was no longer just the howl of a beast, but the chilling call of something that walked on two legs, something that feasted on fear and dressed in the guise of her child. "Please, Mom." "Help me," came the voice again. It lingered, echoing, begging for a response. And just like that, hope twisted into horror, leaving Sarah to wonder who she was truly racing to save. As she sprinted deeper into the night, one question loomed larger than the rest: were they running toward salvation, or into the jaws of something even more sinister? Branches scratched at Sarah's arms as they plunged deeper into the murky woods. The whispers in the trees grew louder, a cruel symphony that mocked her fear. Each step felt heavier, as if the earth was clawing at her heels, trying to draw her back. "Mom, where are we going?" Lily panted, her little legs trembling. "Anywhere but here," Sarah replied, breath ragged and burning in her chest, but she didn't slow down. With Ethan clinging to her side, she glanced at her daughter, seeing the stark terror in Lily's eyes. The moon's light flickered like a dying candle, making the shadows dance cruelly around them. Suddenly, a new sound slithered through the oppressive silence: soft, playful laughter. Sweet and innocent. It twisted her gut. "Mom! Look, is that a playground?" Ethan's finger pointed ahead, past the thicket, to a swell of space that opened up under a blanket of twisted branches. "No. It's a trap," Sarah hissed, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. "Keep moving." But the laughter persisted, echoing, beckoning them closer. It became richer, filling the air like syrup, and there was something deeply wrong about it. It felt like the spirits of the forest were doing a cruel masquerade in the guise of joyful children. Maybe we could hide there," Lily suggested, her voice wavering. "No." Panic surged through Sarah, fueled by their relentless plight. "We can't trust anything here." She yanked them away from the spectral sound, but it clung to them, intangible tendrils of fear trailing in the air. As they veered off the path, climbing over gnarled roots, a rustling behind them made Sarah freeze. She turned. There, behind the trees, shadows moved fluidly, shifting shapes stalking them like wolves. "Mom!" Ethan's voice broke, his grip on her arm tightening. She wanted to scream. Instead, she dared to whisper, "Run." They bolted again, hearts pounding like war drums, thump thump, thump thump, driving them deeper into the night. But every second felt like an eternity, the laughter growing louder, shifting from child's play to something darker, more sinister. "Mommy! Please!" The voice echoed once more, now unmistakably a twisted mimicry of Ethan's tone. It was too close again. She could almost feel breath on her neck, hot and clammy. A sudden flash of light cut through the canopy. They stumbled into another clearing. Fractured under the moonlight, they stood before an old wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Miller Ridge, your adventure awaits." The paint peeled and faded, the words whispering tales of joy long abandoned. Ethan whimpered in terror. "What is this place?" She shook her head, fear coiling like a serpent in her stomach. "It doesn't matter." Yet she felt it, the laughter warped, snapping sharp and cruel. The ground seemed to pulse beneath them, alive and insatiable. "Mom, I'm scared," Lily cried, eyes darting in search of escape. Just then, in the shadow's depths, a figure emerged. Tall, gaunt, its limbs bending ornately like the branches around it, wearing the contours of twisted bark. And then it spoke. "Sarah, is that you?" Her heart stopped. It wasn't Eddie, but it looked just like him, something horrific concealed in its smile. "Don't look at it," Sarah hissed in a choked whisper, holding her children close. "Keep your eyes down." But the thing's voice pulled them in, its familiarity shattering them. "I've missed you, I'm home." An icy sensation flooded her veins. Tailored whispers fluttered in the wind, wrapping around her mind. She felt dizzy, it was merging, shifting closer. "Run!" she screamed, ripping them from the trance even as her own limbs felt frozen. They took off again, flying past the terror that lingered behind them. As they dashed deeper into darkness, the forest grew denser, the air seeping with ancient dread. Each heartbeat drummed louder, merging with whatever hunted them. The howls were now everywhere, conspiratorial whispers teasing their every move. "What do we do, Mommy?" Ethan's voice barely registered, thick with tears. "Just don't stop. We have to find a way out." But as they fled, she began to wonder, was there truly a way out? Or was the forest a trap, intending to swallow them whole? Then, out of nowhere, a blinding light materialized before them. They froze. It flickered like a firefly before bursting into an unforgiving radiance that illuminated the trees. Sarah shielded her eyes but felt its warmth wane. "What is that?" A figure loomed within the light, shrouded in shadows. "Welcome back," a voice mused softly, sending an icy chill coursing through her. Hope twisted into confusion as the shadows closed in again. Were they truly running toward salvation, or had they stumbled into an even darker fate awaiting them? The light flickered, driving shadows to retreat like frightened mice. Sarah squinted against the brightness, daring to take a step forward. A form emerged, its features impossible to discern in that harsh glow. "You've returned," it insisted, its voice a melodic whisper that danced across her skin. "No, we didn't want to come here." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She darted a glance at her kids, their eyes wide with confusion and fear. This was not a safe haven, it was a crossroads with no exit. "Forgotten souls," the figure spoke again, each word layering like heavy fog. "You all have stories, don't you? Tales that linger, waiting to be told." "Mommy, what's wrong with it?" Ethan whispered, clutching Lily's hand. The figure stepped closer, shadows peeling away to reveal a distorted face reminiscent of Eddie, only it held a grotesque grin, as if mockery colored every line. Sarah staggered back, a nauseating realization dawning upon her. "What did you do to him?" Fingers twitched, elongated and twisted like roots breaking through brittle earth. "He wanders, like you," it replied with a sickening sweetness. "But don't worry. In Miller Ridge, you're all welcome forever." The laughter returned, that sickening sound creeping back into the air. It spiraled around her, clawing at her sanity. She wanted to scream, to turn and run, but her feet felt rooted, like they belonged to the soil. "Mommy." Lily's voice broke through the haze. "I'm scared. Grab my hand." She pulled Ethan forward, breaking the spell. An instinctive surge of fear shot through Sarah as she tore her gaze from the abomination. She didn't look back, she couldn't. With adrenaline fueled by sheer terror, they sprinted into the forest again. Under the canopy, darkness reigned. But the whispers grew loud, intertwining with the branches that clawed at them as they raced. "Play with us. Stay." They called, trying to latch onto her, but Sarah pressed her lips together, forcing the dread down. Branches snapped, thorns tearing at their clothes, each sound like a taunt. "It's getting closer." Ethan wailed, backpedaling as if the ground would swallow him whole. "We can't stop. Hold on." Sarah yelled, her voice hoarse. Her mind spun. How do you escape a nightmare with no end? They broke into another clearing, the trees parting like a curtain revealing an unsettling scene. Ghostly figures played in the yard, swinging on rusted swings, their laughter echoing like a painful reminder of lost innocence. But these weren't children. Their faces were pale, motionless, eyes empty and pleading. "What is this place?" Lily whimpered, tears streaking down her dirt-stained cheeks. "Something evil," Sarah spat, her fists clenching. And then she saw it, a small shed sitting in the far corner, shadows creeping around its frame like serpents. It might be a way out. She pointed towards it. "We have to try." Behind them, laughter intensified, sharp and desperate. As they dashed toward the shed, the laughter morphed into cries, and she felt the shadows pursuing, rushing to snatch them back. They stumbled into the shed, the door creaking ominously as she swung it shut. Inside, darkness draped itself around them, heavy like a fog. The air was cold, felt as though it had memories embedded in it, mournful echoes from bygone days. She leaned against the door, listening to the scratching and clawing outside. Were they trapped? Mommy, Ethan's voice trembled, shattered by hopelessness. Don't panic. She shushed them, desperately scanning the room for something, anything. We'll find a way out. We have to. The wood groaned, protesting their weight as Sarah moved further inside where shadows bled into shapes. And then came an unsettling noise, a low guttural growl, rumbling from the corner. Mom, what was that? Lily's eyes widened, searching her mother for reassurance. But Sarah's heart pounded in her chest like a caged animal. Suddenly, something moved fast and low, darting across the floor in the corner of her eye. It was just a glimpse, but it held a shape, looming, monstrous. Stay close. We have to move. But before she could finish, the door burst open with a deafening crash. The shadows poured in like a tide, eager to consume. Sarah pushed her children behind her, heart racing, surrendering to the engulfing darkness. What emerged from the chaos could very well be their salvation or their doom. The thing in the shadows stood there, just out of reach, grotesque yet familiar, eyes glimmering like shards of glass. You really thought you'd escape? It breathed, timeless and betraying. You're home now. As the piercing truth sunk in, error strangled her breath. They weren't the intruders, they were the newest inhabitants of Miller Ridge. The shadows whispered her name once again, and that entwining laughter surged, heating with a sick promise that made her skin crawl. Was there truly any way to break free, or had they welcomed their new fates? A chilling breeze swept through the shed, curling around them like a serpent. It carried with it the scent of decay, the promise of despair that seeped into Sarah's bones. The grotesque figure loomed, eyes reflecting darkness that seemed to absorb the very light around them. She felt her heart pound like a war drum, each beat resonating in her throat, urging her to flee. Mommy, Ethan's whisper trembled, each syllable choked with fear. Lily clung to his side, her small hands gripping his shirt like a lifeline. Stay behind me, Sarah commanded, forcing herself to stand tall against the monstrous presence. The figure shifted, shadows moving like an army at its command. You come seeking hope, yet here you find only hunger, it crooned, dripping malice. The mirth in its voice turned sharper, cutting through the chill. You're all so very hungry, aren't you? Get away from us. Sarah shouted, the defiance in her voice a fragile shield against the impending doom. It stepped forward, the door creaking as though responding to an unseen force. The darkness spilled in around it, writhing on the floor like living smoke. The shed felt tighter, air thinner, as though they were sinking into a void. Against her instincts, Sarah took a step back, pushing Ethan and Lily further behind her. The laughter from the darkness crescendoed, filling her ears with maddening echoes. Faces emerged within the shadows, twisted and contorted in agony. Each one bore an expression of longing mingled with despair, a desperate plea for salvation trapped in their lost forms. They reached out with skeletal hands, fingers elongating like grotesque vines, desperate to ensnare her. Mommy, please! Lily cried, eyes wide with fear. The shadows shifted, and Sarah caught sight of a familiar face amidst the chaos. Eddie. Help me! He wailed, his voice filled with sorrow that clawed at her heart. You shouldn't have come back. You have to run. A wave of anguish washed over her. Eddie! She screamed, fighting against the icy grip of despair. The shadows rippled and recoiled at the sound of his name, as if the call held power to disrupt their relentless pull. The grotesque figure flinched, exposing a fleeting glimpse of hesitation. Stay! It hissed, the command resonating like a crack of thunder, wrapping around them with a command so strong it seemed to suck the very air from her lungs. Mommy, what do we do? Ethan's voice cracked, panic creeping in. That moment, something primal snapped within Sarah. We fight. She turned to her children, determination coursing through her veins. We break free. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed the nearest object, a rusted pipe that lay forgotten on the shed's floor. The shadows recoiled as she swung it, defiance replacing fear. The creature screeched, its form pulsating as if the blow hurt more than any physical strike. "Run to the door!" she shouted, her voice fierce against the swell of impending doom. The shadows undulated closer, their whispers rising, roaring in fury. "Don't let them take you." Eddie's voice mixed with the chaos, his spectral form faint as he struggled against the darkness that bound him. Sarah's heart raced, every instinct screaming to escape. She pressed forward, leading her children through whirling despair, toward the splintered door that lay cracked open. Behind her, the figure writhed, merging with the shadows. Its grotesque grin morphed into a snarl, baring twisted teeth as it surged forward. Just as they reached the threshold, Sarah glanced back. Eddie met her gaze, desperation flooding his features. "You have to remember," he begged, voice barely above a whisper. "Remember who you are." Then they burst through the door into a world that felt eerily familiar yet warped. Mist curled around them like phantom fingers, and the haunting laughter layered upon itself, reverberating through the chill that danced in the air. Had they escaped? Or merely crossed into another nightmare? "Mom?" Ethan whispered, voice trembling again. "I don't know," Sarah cried, frantically scanning the darkness around them. The trees loomed tall, twisted. Shapes reaching for them like abandoned memories. And in the distance the laughter echoed again, louder, closer. "Run!" Sarah urged, instinct overpowering thought as she raced with her kids into the unknown. Each step pulled them deeper into the whispering woods, where shadows beckoned and promises of safety danced just out of reach. Was there a way out of this hell, or were they forever entwined within the curse of Miller Ridge? The shadows behind roared with their twisted laughter, and the darkness thickened. Desperation clawed at her throat. She had to remember, she had to find a way to break the cycle before it consumed them entirely. What piece of herself had she lost that could unlock freedom? With each hurried step, dread congealed in her chest. What if the only way out was to confront the darkness lurking in her own heart? The forest enveloped them like a shroud, the trees whispering secrets older than time. Lizards scuttled underfoot, their tiny bodies lost in the underbrush. But the air was thick, oppressive, almost alive, crawling with the echoes of the lost. "Where are we?" Ethan's voice was barely a whisper, heavy with fear. "I wish I knew." Sarah pressed on, her mind racing. The laughter seemed to echo off the bark, morphing into a cacophony of mocking voices. Each taunt gnawed at her sanity, and she felt the pulse of despair closing in around them. They stumbled deeper into the forest, adrenaline pushing her forward as her instinct screamed to protect her children. She glanced back, half expecting to see the grotesque figure looming just behind them, waiting to strike. But nothing followed. Just shadows, undulating and watching. A low growl rumbled through the trees, sending a wave of terror crashing over her. "Did you hear that?" she breathed, pausing to listen. The woods held their breath alongside them, a stillness that screamed of danger. "Mom!" Lily whined, fingers clutching at Sarah's shirt. "I want to go home." "Me too, sweetie, me too," Sarah whispered hoarsely, forcing a brave smile. But beyond the comforting facade, an icy terror gnawed at her stomach. She searched for clarity, a plan, anything. Another growl, louder this time, rattled the underbrush as it approached. It was joined by another, then another. A chorus of creatures hidden just beyond their sight. With fear igniting her instincts, she pressed on, the branches tearing at their clothes, wild thorns snagging at her skin. Rounding a thick tree trunk, they stumbled upon a clearing. Moonlight spilled into the open space like silver ink, cutting through the oppressive darkness. "Look!" Ethan pointed at a stone well in the center of the glade, ancient and weathered, moss creeping along its edges. It seemed almost inviting, yet exuded an aura that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Terror often disguises itself as hope. The voice was soft but echoed ominously, hanging in the air like smoke. Out of the darkness stepped an apparition, a woman whose face was feathered with shadowed scars, skin pale and eyes hollow, yet burning with desperate intensity. You seek escape, yet this place offers neither sanctuary nor salvation. Let us leave. Sarah pleaded, stepping protectively in front of her children. You cannot flee from what you carry within you, the woman said, her voice sweet as poison. You must confront your demons. Only then will you be free. Enough of this. Sarah shouted, panic boiling over. We don't want anything to do with you. But the woman smiled grinned revealing teeth too sharp, too white. Truth lies in the well, dear heart. If you seek answers, you must drink. The shadows began to meld and swirl, forming outlines of dark figures, ancient and twisted, rising up around the clearing, surrounding them like a noose. Mommy! Lily whimpered, clutching Ethan tighter. With nowhere to go, desperation clawed at Sarah's chest. We're not doing this. She shouted, fighting against the wave of looming despair. Then you'll perish, the woman's voice turned sinister, the shadows closing in tighter. In that moment, something shattered within Sarah, a memory, a flicker of light. No! She screamed, tearing her gaze away from the well. We choose to fight, not to yield. But the shadows surged forward, threatening to engulf them, while the woman laughed, a sound laced with madness, swirling in the air around them. They were trapped. Or were they? With a sudden clarity igniting her, Sarah turned to her children. Ethan, Lily, hold on tight to each other. I want to let them take you. As she lunged towards the well, she felt a shift in the air, a connection pulling her downward, urging her to face the darkness that haunted her. Could it truly set her free? In that confused moment, Sarah breathed in deep. What awaited them below gave her pause, a choice that felt deep and dangerous. With shadows roaring, the echoes of laughter sharp against her senses, she mustered every ounce of courage to leap into the unknown. Was this the answer to all of their suffering, or would it seal their fates forever? And as they plummeted downward, Sarah felt a very real terror. What if the very thing she had to face was far darker than any nightmare she could imagine? The darkness closed around them, a silent scream that pressed against their skin as they fell. There was no ground, no sense of direction, just an endless black that tasted of fear and regret. A sudden jolt yanked them to a halt, slamming into a cold, damp floor. Sarah gasped, trying to shake off the disorientation. The well seemed to have spat them out into a cavern, the air filled with whispers, a dissonant hum that clawed at her ears. Mom? Ethan's voice quavered, tinged with confusion. What happened? Where are we? I don't know, she muttered, rising to her knees. Stay close. The faint glow of moss clung to the walls, illuminating the grotesque forms of long-silenced faces carved into stone. Their expressions twisted in eternal agony, eyes wide in terror, mouths open in a silent scream. A chill seized her heart as she wondered if they too might end up becoming part of this dreadful decor. Lily! She shouted, panic surging. Where's Lily? Right here, Mommy. Came her daughter's timid voice, surfacing through the dark. Sarah let out a relieved breath but felt release slip away as the shadows pulsed, alive and shifting. Mommy, I'm scared, Lily's quivering whisper echoed, the sound blending with the murmurs that churned in the stillness. It was maddening, a mingling of voices she couldn't place. But they knew her name. You shouldn't have come, another voice hissed, disembodied and eerie. You should have stayed above with the living. Who are you? Ethan shouted, fear cracking his voice. A figure stepped forth, emerging from the shadows, a swirling mass of darkness that coalesced into a woman. Her hair hung low, pooling around her shoulders like black oil, while her eyes glowed with an unsettling light. I am the keeper of truths, she breathed, voice seducing the air, dripping with malice. Let us go. Sarah shouted, stepping in front of her children. The shadows pressed closer, squeezing the air, filling her lungs with nothing but terror. You cannot escape that which you fear, the Keeper of Truths taunted, her voice slicing through the thick air. You came seeking answers, did you not? We didn't want this. We just want to go home. Ethan cried, fists clenched, a child's hope colliding with adult despair. Home is a memory, she replied. What use is it if the past haunts you? The walls shuddered, and a rumbling echoed through the cavern like the growl of some unseen beast. The images of the carved faces twisted, their mouths appearing to scream as if feeling the weight of dread they could not escape. Face your fears, or be trapped in your own darkness forever, the Keeper whispered, her eyes boring into Sarah's soul. What have you buried? What have you hidden? Heart pounding, Sarah felt a rush of chaotic memories. Her mind blazed with images of loss and guilt, murky recollections she couldn't bear to face. The laughter, the shadows all tangled with her past transgressions. Stop it! She screamed, folding her hands over her ears. But the truths clawed at her, rising unbidden like spirits clawing for release. The cavern rattled, and a deep rumble seemed to build beneath them. Admit it! The Keeper shrieked, let it out. Only then will you find peace. And as waves of despair thundered through her, shadows shifted, morphing into forms she recognized too well. The lost faces of loved ones she couldn't save, fingers pointed, mouths opened in accusation. No, get away. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her face, the specters daunting and relentless. Will you confront your demons, or remain shackled to the past? The Keeper urged, her grin widening in sadistic delight. I can't do this. Sarah cried, her breath hot with panic, choking on her shame. Then let despair take you. The cavern roared, a cyclone of darkness preparing to swallow them whole. And as the shadows surged, she felt the weight of her fears pressing in closer, threatening to engulf her and her children in utter darkness. With a final surge of courage, she made a choice, her voice trembling as she yelled, I will fight. But the shadows writhed, laughter swelling around her as they began to close in. The Keeper's eyes flickered with malicious glee. Then show me what you're truly made of. But deep within, Sarah felt a spark awaken. Would it be enough to save them all, or would it plunge her deeper into the abyss? In that moment of hesitation, uncertainty loomed large. She had to confront the truth, but could she bear what lay ahead? The darkness awaited, hungry and patient, while Sarah prepared to face the truth and the choices they would have to make to find their way back to the living world. What awaited them beyond the darkness, and would they emerge whole? A piercing silence filled the air as Sarah clutched her children. The shadows loomed, swirling like a dark storm. She could hear the whispers growing louder, a cacophony of voices clamoring for attention, each one a fragment of her past that refused to stay buried. Mom? Ethan's shaking voice broke through the panic. What are we supposed to do? The Keeper of Truths circled them like a predator, her predatory grin widening. You must face your past, she taunted, or drown in your despair. The walls seemed to pulse in response to the emotional turmoil that churned within her. The faint green light from the moss cast eerie shadows that danced around them, making the grotesque stone faces appear even more alive. Suddenly, the sounds shifted from whispers to guttural growls. The very air felt charged, as though something was listening, waiting. Lily, Sarah breathed, her mind racing. You need to stay strong, just like I taught you. She could feel her daughter's small hand grasp her own, trembling yet determined. It filled her with a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Mommy? Lily's voice was barely a whisper, heavy with dread. I can't hear them anymore. What do they want? They want us to remember, Sarah replied, trying to sound brave, though inside, her heart was slamming against her ribs. What I buried deep, it's time to bring it to light. A growl cut through the air, primal and loud. The shadows recoiled, then surged forward again with a vengeance. The Keeper's smirk twisted into a frustrated snarl. You cannot run away. The darkness knows you well. It longs to embrace you. Embrace us? Sarah spat, feeling the heat of defiance rise within her. You think we're afraid of you? As she spoke, memories washed over her like a fresh tide, crashing against the shore of her mind. The faces of her lost family, the friends she failed to save, lingered. I'm not afraid to say their names. I'm not afraid of the truth. With her voice rising, the shadows hesitated, their all-consuming power wavering for just a moment. You think that's all it takes? The keeper hissed, sending a shockwave of cold fear down Sarah's spine, but in the chaos, a revelation hit her like lightning. I buried them because I thought it would keep them safe. But hiding has only given power to the pain. Her next words came out in a fervent rush. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I loved you all. The cavern trembled as if the stone itself vibrated with her admission. The ground shook, and the shadows recoiled in surprise, losing their cohesive form. Good, good. The keeper shouted ecstatically, her voice filled with rage as she struggled to maintain control. Face it. Your guilt only makes you weaker. Sarah summoned the anger, the pain, everything she had tried to bury, and let it loose. The shadows whipped violently around her, trying to reclaim their lost grip. In this storm of grief and fury, she felt both close to losing herself and discovering the strength she didn't know she possessed. Together. She cried out, her voice booming. We're going to fight this. Suddenly, Ethan and Lily stepped closer, joining their mother's side, hands clasped tightly. Each breathed in deep shadows of fear and exhaled a flicker of courage. The shadows faltered again, their forms twisting in confusion as if Sarah's determination had disrupted their very essence. Enough. The keeper snarled, fury igniting her eyes. You cannot deny me. I will take you. But as she lunged forward, the children's hands squeezed tighter around Sarah's, light erupted, seeping through the cracks of despair as their memories flooded the space. Laughter, love, lost moments intermingled in a blinding blaze that pushed back the consuming dark. Would it be enough to vanquish the Keeper of Truths? And in the midst of emerging light, Sarah wondered what price they might still pay for their freedom. Light burst from the depths of their collective will, more radiant than any darkness the shadows could conjure. It sent the shrouded figures reeling, their grotesque visages twisting in horror. Sarah stood at the heart of it, her children at her side, feeling the warmth of their bond grow against the chill of despair threatening to pull them under. Mommy, we can do this. Ethan shouted, his voice ringing with renewed courage. Sarah felt her spirit swell, melding with the light, a tapestry woven with memories of her family. Laughter, love, every cherished moment flowed through her, their essence defying the shadows that gripped at their heels. Together. We remember, we fight. She declared, her voice rising over the cacophony of despair. The keeper shrieked, an unholy sound that echoed through the cavern, power struggling against their united force. Your past is your weakness. She spat, but Sarah could see the fear flicker in the abyss, the uncertainty in the keeper's once dominant form. We don't carry weakness, we carry love. Sarah shouted back, feeling every ounce of sorrow and regret fade slowly as the light intensified. She turned to her children, guiding them with a firm grip. We're not alone in this. Remember those who believed in us. In that instant, the ghosts of her past faces of family she had lost, friends she had failed emerged, joining their shimmering essence. They reached out, hand in hand with her, with Ethan and Lily, their voices harmonizing in a chorus of warmth and acceptance. Let go of the darkness. Embrace the light. They cried, the whispers of the ancient figures resonating through the cavern. Shrieks of agony erupted as the shadows writhed in disarray, caught in the clash of light and darkness. No. You can't do this. The keeper howled, grasping futilely at the remnants of her power, but the light only grew, cascading like a waterfall, washing over them, engulfing the cavern until neither shadows nor dread remained. Sarah felt lightness fill her limbs, a peace settling in her heart as the shadows dissipated into nothingness. As the light dimmed, revealing the well once more, Sarah blinked, breathing in the cool air, filled with the scent of earth. The world outside the well felt alive, vibrant, and tinted with a tender essence she had thought lost forever. "Mommy?" Lily's voice broke through the fading echoes. "Did we win?" "We did, baby. We fought together," she whispered, pulling them close as tears slipped down her cheeks. The burden on her heart loosened, the vivid pain of loss transformed into radiant memories, fueling her resolve. Ethan looked around in awe, eyes wide as he took in the breath of the forest surrounding them. "Are we free?" "Yes, this time we're stronger. We can go home, for real this time," she promised, each word a thread weaving a strong bond among them. In that moment, they didn't just rekindle their connection with each other, they forged a new beginning, one where light replaced shadows, and the darkness faded. Hand in hand, they stepped away from the edge of the well, leaving behind all that threatened to consume them. As they emerged into the clearing, the sun's rays cut through the trees, illuminating their path towards home, a home filled with laughter, love, and the unforgiving strength of resilience. "Let us go camping," Sarah suggested with a light laugh, her heart light, facing her children who mirrored her grin. As they headed away from the cursed remnants of Miller Ridge, Sarah marveled at how the forest appeared different now, less menacing, more alive. With every stride, they reclaimed their narrative, weaving new tales together, free from fear. No longer tethered to shadows and pain, they walked on toward the promise of tomorrow, and as they ventured into the open, the woods whispered sweetly behind them, a reminder that sometimes the darkest paths lead to the brightest tomorrows. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the tales alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.